Hello and welcome to episode 80 of Third and Wrong. I'm your co-host Stephen Boland, and this is the Jerry Rice episode. So expect it to be elite and Hall of Fame good. And we're just going to set the bar really high. And if we fail to meet it, screw it. Ozzy, how are things with you, my friend? We'll go to you first.
Man, things are fantastic. I had some dental work done earlier today, so hoping that don't fumble my words a little too much. I still just recovering from the freezing, so we'll see how it goes over the next hour. But doing just peachy over here.
That was a little bright over there. That's just your smile. Zach, you have a cute smile too. How are things, man? We're in the Joe Hayden jersey.
Swap it. No, I'm doing good. Living the dream down in the hat as well. A little bit of rain here. Classic weather. Update of Medicine Hat, Alberta. But yeah, I'm wearing my Joe Hayden jersey. I was more for the Cleveland on the top there. Still sad to see you in the Steelers uniform. But yeah, big win for Cleveland.
What if we start getting like death threats from meteorologists or like, hey, you're taking some of our clout, updating your listeners on the weather every week? Cut that shit out before we kill you all. Like, is that a realistic scenario, or
we're all the next weatherman at amateur agency?
They start calling our employers. They're like, okay, wait, you guys got to really tune into what your employees are doing. It's not cool. And then they'll just hear one of our takes, and then they'll be like, oh, we've got to fire Steve because he thinks that the Seahawks are winning the Super Bowl this year.
Oh, that's not a fireable offense. Okay, you know what? Let's get to the 2-minute drill. For those that don't know what the 2-minute drill is, we try to recap all the games in somewhat clever ways, but in other ways we just read the scores. So you be the judge how cool or not that is. It's pretty great. And we don't think we got in under 2 minutes last week, but we're going to try to do a little better this week. Ozzy, do you got that timer ready, my friend?
Yes, sir.
Awesome. All right, count me in, brother. Let's get going.
All right, Steve Boland, we got you on. In 3, 2, 1, go.
In a battle of Baker and Burrow's 61 attempts isn't enough to take down the Browns. Browns win 35-30. The Titans beat the upstart Jags 33-30. Tannehill, for real? I think so. The Bucks, Tom Brady gets his first win in the Buccaneers uniform, 31-17. McCaffrey goes down. The Steelers beat the Broncos as Drew Lock down for the 6 weeks, 26-21. Rams over the Eagles. Eagles fall to 0-2, 37-19.
The 49ers may have got the W, but they lost a lot against the Jets as they won 31-13. The Bills held off a surging Ryan Fitzpatrick and the boys for the Dolphins as they hold them off 31-28. The Colts take care of a young and confused Vikings team 28-11. The Packers annihilate the Lions. Matt Patricia is going to be fired after week 3, 42-21. The Cowboys surge back against the Falcons, down 20 points at one point, and win 40-39. And the Bears, they took down Saquon and the Giants 17-13.
Cardinals bring the Haas King-led football club back down to earth, 30-15 Cardinals. I wonder if Herbert got a bad case of nervous shits being told 10 minutes before a match defending chaps he'd be starting. Even with a valiant effort by the rookie, the Chiefs squeak by an OT, 23-20 Chiefs. The Ravens take it to the Texans team in turmoil. Watson seems to be having trouble getting on the same page with his new offensive weapons, 33-16 Ravens. Bill and his funny mask kept the Pats in a close game with MVP frontrunner Russell Wilson and his band of merry men. The struggling Seahawks defense made a stop on the goal line to beat the Pats 35-30 Hawks. Gruden and Carr surprised with a 2-0 start, beating the Saints in the Vegas home opener 34-24 Raiders!
Right at the bell. Just like the Patriots Seahawks game.
Your young and confused line was the story of my teenage years, Ozzy. So
the Vikings. Man.
They drafted 12 guys last draft. They're a young team.
I hope Herbert's doing good after his case of the nervous shits there, Zach. They told him 5 seconds before kickoff that he was starting, he said. So that'd be
it's like, hey, you ready to get out on the field? Starting out, let's go.
I said
like, actually, I need to go to the tent. I have a Can we please kick the ball to start the game? Guys, so before we get to some of the more overarching storylines of this past week, I guess the biggest one that we want to discuss are the massive injuries. I feel like there was a week like this either last year or the year before where we just saw a lot of guys drop like flies. But this one was like the worst in recent memory. So I'm just going to rattle off some names here and then we can kind of discuss. I mean, we can just kind of discuss what's the biggest one, but like Barkley, Bosa, Jimmy G, but that's day to day now. Solomon Thomas out for the year. Locke for, I think, 6 weeks. Sutton's out for the year. McCaffrey, 4 to 6 weeks. Malik Hooker out for the year. So poor guy can't stay on the field. I think this is his third season ending injury in 3 years. Brandon Sheriff, tackle for the Washington football team. Byron Jones, Raheem Mostert, not sure how long he's out for. Anthony Barr is out for the year with a torn pec. Bruce Irvin and Marquise Blair out for the year with torn ACLs on Seattle. I think just from a quick standpoint, like I think the 49ers injuries are most impactful, but their schedule over the next couple of weeks is pretty easy. So I think they'll probably make it through this stretch okay, but it's just brutal to see all this star talent goes down. I don't think I have much more takes on that. It's hard to have a take on this. It's just bad for the league. It's bad for the product.
Yeah, that is a lot of star power that it gets demolished. Like Saquon is the Giants offense. Jimmy G, not so much the 49ers offense, as you guys noted, but Bosa and Thomas are on that defensive line that we've talked so highly about and that did so well. And Cortland Sutton, I think he's out for the year with a torn ACL as well. And he was supposed to be like he is an up and coming wide receiver, one of the better ones. McCaffrey not getting that season ending injury, holding on for the stars in this past week. Like, man, that is, if we lost Barkley and McCaffrey, that would just, fantasy heads would just be losing their shit. But on a human level, it's really sad to see nonetheless. But this is not a good year for the NFL, or not a good week for the NFL as far as their stars go. Let's hope that this isn't a trend with maybe like a lack of preparation from COVID stuff. I don't know.
It's tough to say that because, like, yes, on the surface, if you just look at the rash of injuries and no preseason, it's easy to correlate the two. But I mean, even just watching the Seahawks game, and I didn't see a lot of these injuries because I wasn't watching every game at once, but like the Marquise Blair one was friendly fire. KJ Wright came in on a late hit just took out his leg. Like, that's not preseason. That's just a really bad luck at the draw. I mean, Bruce Irvin goes to plant his leg and his knee buckles. So I don't know how much of this, like, if everyone was tearing their hamstring, yeah, maybe you can, like, associate that with, a lack of preparation and not having that, muscle elasticity, up to par. But I feel like torn ACLs are just such freak accidents that this could have just all been a really bad luck week. But I'm no doctor, so sorry I let my parents down. I'm no doctor, but I don't know. Zach, do you have any words on this? Your Browns, I think, came out unscathed on Thursday Night Football. This didn't start till Sunday.
Yeah, I'm not saying.
Knock on wood.
But guys, you hit it right on. You hit it. It's sad to see all these guys' thoughts with them and their recoveries. I know everyone hates hearing fantasy football afterward because these are people and all that, but I'm just putting the parents, fantasy football owners. It's a big one, man. I took a huge hit too, so it's crazy out there. But honestly, speedy recoveries to those guys, and not much else to add. So
it's fun to see everyone just run to get Devontae Freeman, who just signed with the Giants, as if like he was productive at all over the last 2 years. Like, it's just been, I had him the last 2 years in fantasy when he was with Atlanta, and it was just so frustrating. I'm like, RB1 in Atlanta, this should be okay. And he'll get you 4.5 points in a game. And I'm just like, okay, that's great. That's really great for everyone involved. So anyways, Ozzy, let's talk, and Zach, we're going to talk about it all. The Patriots Seahawks game. So my plan, I was going to come on this podcast and I was going to have a pair of shades on. I was going to have a cigar, and I was even going to buy like a little mini bottle of champagne to celebrate. But after looking at how hard fought that game was, and like, I was thinking we were gonna beat you guys by 2 scores. That didn't happen. You guys had mounted a really respectable comeback, and I mean, Elwin balled out, Cam balled out. I mean, your defense did as best they could against Wilson. I mean, I can't believe Wilson, 5 touchdowns to 5 different receivers. Metcalf was all over Gilmore. I mean, that was a really great battle. He had that one touchdown that he beat him on. So as much as I wanted to come on here and gloat and throw it in your face, Ozzy, I actually walk away from this game respecting the hell out of the Pats. And, I it feels really weird to say that because I have this burning hatred for what you guys did in Super Bowl 49. It just still burns within me. And but Cam makes it so hard to root against you guys. I mean, I'm a big Cam fan, and he threw for like 300 yards or 200 yards in just the second half alone. So the Seahawks have their own pass rush issues to address. But I mean, walking away from this game, I think it was a really hard fought game between two playoff teams. And I think New England will be a playoff team if they keep building on performances like that. But I just walk away just in awe. Just another classic game by the Seahawks and Patriots. We had the 2012 one where we beat you 24-23, the Super Bowl, which we don't need to discuss. 2016's game, which came down to the goal line as well, where the Seahawks won that one as Cam and Gronk went at it on the goal line on fourth down. And then this one here, LJ Collier and Lano Hill are the heroes for Seattle as they chopped down the left side of your line and flipped Cam on his head as the seconds of the clock died out. But I am not here to rub anything in your face, Ozzy. I want to know what your biggest takeaway was as a Patriots fan, because what were you picked the Patriots to win, but what were you expecting going in, and what did you take away?
Yeah, so I chose the Patriots to win thinking that it was going to be a very, very much so like a battle of the trenches and who's got the edge there. I figured the Patriots have the edge on both sides of the ball. And so I figured that would be a good way of figuring out who was going to win just in that sense, because the old adage, games are won and lost in the trenches. But this happened to be just kind of like a shootout more than anything. And it was just kind of crazy to see that the Patriots defense is human. It was like, it starts off week one, we get a couple picks and stuff like that, but Russell Wilson just made us look mortal again. And I think that I've seen a lot of brutal takes, and I don't know if this is just Patriots fans at large or if it's just a few like bandwagoners that don't really watch football, but people are turning on the Patriots secondary after this game. And I don't know if they even watched the game, but like Russell Wilson was throwing dimes, and we saw like one of the beat writers for the Patriots answered one of these people who was turning on Gilmore, the defending defensive player of the year, and just already turning on him after 2 weeks. And this guy posted a picture of the Metcalf catch for a touchdown, and Gilmore was right there. His arm was right there. Like if it's anybody else, that's probably an incompletion, but Metcalf is just so large of a human being. And Wilson threw such a perfect ball that only Metcalf could have caught it, that I think that that's kind of the storyline of how this game was really won. It was on the back of Russell Wilson, 10 out of 10. You guys ended up establishing a really good run game, but that was not the storyline coming out of this game. It was how Wilson was just so surgical in how he dissected our pass defense, which again, it's not a bad pass defense. It's one of the better ones in the league. And you put up 5 touchdowns on us. So I come away from this game really pumped about our passing attack, though. Cam Newton threw for the most yards in his career since 2011.
Wow.
Yeah, 397 pass yards. And seeing Edelman go for 179, it's very promising. And N'Keal Harry had a nice game for once after a bunch of half-assed showings. So it's nice to see him get involved. But
sorry, can I interrupt?
Game just going. What's that?
You mentioned Harry, and I saw the most hilarious tweet, and it was like N'Keal Harry runs like he's Larry Fitzgerald without the Hall of Fame career. He runs like old Larry Fitzgerald when he catches the ball, like he's kind of like avoiding contact that he's not good at, like, but he's still very young and has a lot to prove, so he shouldn't really be like so conservative like that. But I just thought that was the funniest thing. It's just he seems very reluctant, but I just had to mention that. But
he does, and he's such a big guy too. I think he's like 6'1", 6'2", or something like that. And yeah, he's like just kind of timid in that sense, which is frustrating as a guy who wants to see Belichick draft a good wide receiver for once. But no, that's a long-winded way of saying that Russell Wilson just absolutely diced our cheeks and it was a great game from him and the Seahawks. I got to give credit, but the fact that we went toe to toe just really affirms my my confidence that this team is a playoff team. That was such a good game out of us that I didn't even know it was going to be that close. So I guess I predicted them to win, but I have to be biased. So I had my
That's
doubts,
fair.
but it was very close.
Before we go to you, Zach, I also want to give props to Brian Schottenheimer. I guess before this season, he's called all the plays from the sideline. And starting this year, he's actually calling plays from the skybox. So now everyone's calling him Skybox Shotty. And I don't know what it is, but just the way he sees the game, he's calling some really beautiful games here. And I don't know if Pete's giving him more like leeway as opposed as you know, like not establishing the run, they're letting Russ cook. And I feel like I'm just repeating a big tagline now, like it's even made its way to the mainstream where Sunday Night Football crew's saying it. But I really got to tip my cap to Schottenheimer. I was not a fan of the hire 2 years ago. After the 0-2 start in 2018, I wanted him fired. But he's really turned the corner, and I think obviously, yes, he's dealing with a future Hall of Famer at quarterback, so it's hard to go wrong there. But I think with a lot of the play designs he's working in and some of the route concepts, I'm really happy with what Schottenheimer's doing. And if he likes calling from the skybox, man, I mean, just let him live up there. Let him pitch a tent. He can pay rent and just live up there and call plays because he's just making his money, bread and butter up there. So, Zach, your thoughts on the game?
Well, amazing game. I went over to our buddy Brandon's house and we watched it from start to finish. And I was glued to the TV the whole entire time, right till the last minute. It was awesome. A few big takeaways for me. One takeaway, Wilson is unbelievably, he is the best player in the NFL. There's no question with Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, anyone in there. Russell Wilson is the best quarterback in the league, and there's no more debating it. Second of all, the Seahawks pass defense, the Seahawks defense, Steve, I hope you're a little worried. They are absolutely trash. I'm sorry. I was watching and I was picking Brandon's a huge Seahawks fan. I was picking his brain on each defender I was seeing out there doing anything. You guys could not get a hand on Cam Newton with the pass rush. And Cam Newton, I'm not a huge fan of Cam Newton. His style of play, blah, 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 looked amazing. His mechanics were the best I've ever seen. They were better mechanics this go around than even in his MVP season. And that should make New England fans happy. The guy was not just doing torso throws like we saw the past 7 years in Carolina. He was getting underneath his throws with his legs, accurately throwing, getting the ball up over top. It was beautiful. And I can't sit here and be like, oh, he was shit. Like I have been. I have to give props where they're due. He's been working hard. He looked great that game. He was accurate. There were a few times in the second half where we saw a few torso throws here and there, but honestly, he looked really great. I'll give him his props this game. As we see that going, I hope they can stay consistent. Man, Cam is taking beatings down in the red zone, dude. Like I forget how many attempts he's had now, just QB runs and contact into the end zone. It's been crazy. I think he has 4 touchdowns down there now.
That was a concern for me after the Miami
it's over
game.
20 rushing attempts.
Some of the hits he's taken, and that continued into week 2. So
right, and Cam's very like he doesn't shy away from contact. So he's big, he rightfully so. But like your quarterback who's throwing with these great mechanics now, I think a lot of it was getting to the point in Carolina where he was getting hit so much, he was hurt all the time. He was getting lazy with his mechanics, to be honest. When he's focused and playing his best ball and actually working and focusing on his throws, he was very accurate. And this is a good marriage, man. New England and him, he needs that, man. And it worked really well this game. Mind you, when he goes up against tougher defenses, I don't think he's going to be throwing 397 yards and 4 touchdowns. I think it's going to be more run focused, and he's going to do the dump offs and stuff, which is great. You guys don't take offense to that.
No, I get you.
No, it was a great game. I'm looking still at the 2 takeaways. Wilson, hands down MVP so far, and honestly the best player in the NFL right now. And man, Seahawks need some work on that defensive side of the ball. And for New England, man, Bill Belichick is a guru, man. That guy is amazing. I have a ton of respect for Bill Belichick and what he's done. And Cam Newton had a really good game.
One last note on the Seahawks pass rush. So with Bruce Irvin tearing his ACL, I don't know what it is, but the Seahawks can't seem to get healthy pass rushes. We drafted in the high second round. We traded up for him. His name's Darrell Taylor. He's supposed to be like just a purebred pass rusher. Can't get on the field. Has leg issues. Dorsett, who's a receiver, had foot issues. I don't know what's going on, like what kind of medical information the Seahawks are being fed, but like it's clearly not great if we're signing and drafting these guys that have pre-existing conditions like this. But anyways, 4th round pick Alton Robinson has been inactive the last 2 games. He'll probably come in, and everyone was raving about him at camp. And then Shaquem Griffin, who is released and then signed back on the practice roster, had a pretty big game against Philly and Green Bay last year in the playoffs. We'll see him come back in as a pass rusher. So I'm hoping that kind of reinvigorates things. Rasheem Green has had a pinched nerve in his neck. He should be coming back. I mean, LJ Collier had his moments, but I agree. Like, our pass rush needs help. And if that means signing Clay Matthews, who I just despise because I think he's a dirty player, and a lot of the dirty hits I've seen in his career have taken place on Seattle Seahawks. But this has been an issue all offseason, so I'm just angry that it hasn't been addressed. And I think maybe they tried to build up their secondary to mask their pass rush, but then when you have a situation where Diggs gets ejected from the game, now your secondary can't compensate for the lack of pass rush, and so you're left with getting absolutely picked apart. And Adams, you even mentioned Zach Adams got picked on a few times, and Pete even mentioned it in a press conference after the game that sometimes he'll chase plays that aren't there. Right. And so that's one of the weaknesses in his game too.
2 of the big passes. We were talking about Edelman's huge receptions, or all of his receiving yards. 2 came against Jamal Adams down the middle, massive passes. And Edelman's not a deep threat guy. He's a crosser and catches and goes. And I think they probably caught Jamal off guard a bit, obviously, both times. But massive passes. And I think it does catch you out. Like, Cam was so accurate downfield. It was really interesting.
Yeah. He was dropping him in the bucket.
Down. It wasn't like what I expect from the Pats. So maybe that caught you guys off guard, but man, Atlanta diced you guys up too. It was like with passing anyways. So.
Oh yeah. No, it's okay. Any last takeaways on that one, guys, before we move on?
No, I'm just amped up about these teams, man. Like with how the Pats showed out on Sunday night. I know that this is a little bit too much, but like I would love to see these 2 teams play again later on in the season.
Oh, okay. All right. Man, it's going to be a tense couple of weeks leading up to if that's a game again. I'm going to have to see that throw in the one so many more times. Guys, another big storyline this week. The Jacksonville Jaguars are absolutely outplaying their expectations. As we mentioned in the 2-minute drill, they dropped an unfortunate loss against the Tennessee Titans, but they only lost 33-30. Minshew's coming to ball out. I mean, tank for Trevor. I mean, if I'm their owner, Khan, I'm very choked because these guys are playing overachieving. But if tanking's the goal, I'm mad. But like, I love the grit of this team. I'll admit I have to do a lot more research into like which players are contributing, especially on the defensive side of the ball. But if I'm a Jacksonville fan, if we have any Jaguar fans, listeners out there, you have to be pretty encouraged by this. And they have a big Thursday night tilt against Miami. I'm thinking they're going to win that game. Unless Tua comes out, I really haven't been inspired by Miami's team. I was really hoping Tua would get those reps, but they seem to be kind of maybe redshirting him, or maybe he'll come in by week 7 or 8. I don't know. But really like what I see from this Jaguars team. Do you guys have any thoughts on them?
I mean, I think you hit it right on the I keep saying that. You keep hitting it. What is that saying? The hammer.
Hitting the nail on the head.
Hitting the nail
on the head. That is exactly
there we
what
go.
I'm trying to say. I just want to quickly say a comment on Minshew Mania, man. The guy's balling. Love the stash. Love the attack. The guy just has game. And that, in the NFL, if you don't have all the talent in the world, you got to come out and just frickin' show the game. Show that you're there to win, and you're going to be – he has that same kind of, grit as like some people laugh at this as like Baker Mayfield kind of style, and I like it.
It's that cowboy when I see Minshew,
Yeah.
I just immediately think of Coach Shahan, and when he says your
Yeah.
quarterback's got to have a little cowboy in him, and like he just comes in and he reminds me of like that Baker Mayfield or like that. I don't like. I'm not saying he's in that tier, but like that Brett Favre that just comes in. And he
Yeah.
has that swagger, that
Perfect.
little bit of fuck you, and he's gonna come in and he's gonna let it fly and it's that grit, that cowboy, that's immediately what I think about when I think of
Great.
him. I just think of Coach Shahan's words on that.
He
I think
doesn't
that's
want.
perfect.
The thing I love about Minshew is that he is totally like if they were tanking, he is not the quarterback to do it with because he is
Oh, no.
so freaking he is so good. Like it is weird how good he is at this stage and with the team that surrounds him. The fact that he almost beat a team that was in the AFC Championship last year, that is incredible. Like Steve, you and I wrote them off right before the season started. We said that they might not even get 10 points against the Colts. Meanwhile, they beat the Colts and then they come back the next week and then almost beat the Titans. Like this team is here to play. This is no joke. And I'm curious. I'd like to do a little bit more research on this team as well to see who's contributing because I'm curious if this is something that can be 16 games of
consistent,
and see where it goes from there. But this whole tanking for Trevor, like Zach said, it is not it's not off to a great start, and it would not be I don't think that it's possible with this team just the way that they're balling out right now.
Quickly, one more thing on that too. It will be interesting to bring us back down to earth just a bit. Minshew, when he came in last year, was just fire from the start, and then he slowed down. It will be interesting, as you alluded to, Austin, to see if it can continue 16 games. But man, I hope Minshew and them, as long as they're not taking a playoff spot away from Brownies, I'm okay with it. But man, imagine Baker and Minshew playing in the wild card or something fun like that. That'd be great. Those two
Zach,
Cowboys.
It's not in the show notes, and I don't want to use up a huge amount of time, but I wanted to get your thoughts on the Browns. They really relied on that run game, but when Baker was called upon, he delivered. He had that unfortunate pick in the fourth quarter, but I mean that pass to OBJ. Burrow, much to his credit, looked poised and had to deliver 61 passes because there's really not a lot around him. But I think the Browns really had a smart game plan, and Stefanski with those two running backs, it just really seemed like that was Stefanski's vision, that game in like a microcosm of what he wants for the rest of the year. And I was just curious as to your thoughts on Baker's performance and the Browns as a whole, real quick.
Oh no, did he freeze?
Oh, right.
Oh no.
Hold on, I'm going to pause the recording.
Sorry for the technical difficulties there, guys. Back to the Browns quickly. I'll just, like I said prior, we'll be quick with this one. Steve, you couldn't have said it better. That is exactly the philosophy we're looking for from Stefanski. They rushed for 215 yards, rushing between Kareem Hunt and Chubb. Those two just looked outstanding. And that play action work that they were doing with Baker Mayfield, he looked comfortable. He looked like a cowboy. He was throwing deep balls. He was looking great. That pick that he threw, he was throwing into a zone deep down the middle. It looked like the safety cheated a bit and came out of his zone to break and intercept that one. So, they'll always, being a cowboy like Baker, he's going to throw a few picks. But if this is what the Browns do throughout the year, this team could make some noise. That's all I'm going to say. And lean on the run. I'm very concerned about the defense right now. The defensive line has looked all right. Our linebackers have been eeky in coverage, showing against, obviously, the Cincinnati Bengals with Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow showed he has a little bit of game in him. If they got a balanced attack, I think they would do a lot better. But, go Browns, and there's a lot to build from here. It was a good first win for Stefanski.
Awesome. No, it was a really fun game to watch. That was one of the better Thursday night games in recent memory, going back to last year as well. Any thoughts on that, Ozzy, or shall we move on?
No, it was a spectacle. I mean, those are my thoughts. I thought it was great to see. Nice to see Joe Burrow do well, but also not well enough that he beat the Browns. So everybody wins.
There you go. Yeah, there you go. We all get to go home happy. Guys, Justin Herbert, as we alluded to prior or after getting the nervous shits after being told he's going into the game, that we just totally made up that rumor. He went in and played a really great game against the Chiefs, taking them to overtime. But it sounds like Lynn's going back to Tyrod Taylor. Anthony Lynn's going back to Tyrod Taylor as a starting quarterback. Real quick, do you agree with this, or do you think Herbert should get the start, or is it just too much of a small sample to say give him the keys going forward? Well, go to you first, Zach, because you watched this firsthand in Cleveland with Baker taking over for Tyrod.
Yeah, I really like Tyrod Taylor. At this point in his career, I think he's a great backup. After what Herbert showed, I watched a lot of the Chargers game, and I was thoroughly impressed. And you guys know I had him, I think it was fourth or third on my list for quarterbacks, and he really showed a lot more than what I was expecting right off the bat. I don't think there is any reason to go back right now. They also have Kelly in the backfield, rookie running back, who's looked very, very good. I think, they have something to build on here and give a little bit of hope. Tyrod definitely has a ceiling. Might as well give the keys to Herbert after playing the defending champions that well. He just well deserving of it.
I agree with that. Ozzy, your thoughts?
No, I totally agree. I think that a lot of people that they want to talk about when they want to talk about the Chiefs, they want to talk about the offense, but they forget that the defense is quite stacked as well in all three levels. So I think that it was, what more could you ask for from your rookie quarterback, really? And why would you make it hard on yourself from like a team perspective to go back to Herbert maybe this year? Like, going back to Tyrod, yes, he was your starter, and yes, there was complications that made him miss out on that game. But are you just going back with him out of principle? Herbert showed you everything that you would want. He's clearly the next generation of quarterback in LA for the Chargers. So why would you not go that route? I don't understand it, but maybe, like I said, they're doing it out of principle that Tyrod only got or Herbert only got that opportunity because of a kind of like a freak thing that happened with Tyrod. So I guess we'll see what happens, and maybe Taylor shows that we're just a bunch of cowards and we don't know what we're talking about. And maybe he proves us wrong. But I just thought that we saw enough out of Herbert that we would have seen him moving forward. But I guess we'll see how it plays out. It'll be interesting to see.
I totally agree. I just, like Colin said it best, it gives the Chargers an identity having Herbert there. Like, you can build your franchise around him. With Tyrod, you're kind of just left in that gray area. And I'm not a huge fan of Tyrod Taylor. I think like you said, he's a great backup and he's a great bridge quarterback. We've said that a couple times on this podcast, but I think it's kind of silly to go back to him at this point. If Herbert came out and just absolutely, like, they lost 20-3, yeah, go back to Tyrod and probably park Herbert on the bench for a bit so he can learn more. But for finding out he was starting, whether it was 10 seconds or 10 minutes before the kickoff, you really couldn't have asked for a better performance. Guys, fun segment I want to do. So it's that time of year where teams that go 0-2 or 2-0, people get a pretty good read on them and what, how the rest of their season is going to play out. And since the NFL went to this playoff format in 1990, I believe it was, only 88% of teams that have started 0-2 have missed the postseason. And since 2007, 98 teams have started 0-2, and only 12% of them have made the playoffs after an 0-2 start. Now, as we alluded to in previous episodes, 7 teams will be making the playoffs out of each conference this year. So that might lessen the blow of starting 0-2. But nevertheless, it seems to be a pretty good benchmark of where you look at teams and you kind of figure out where they're going this year. So the 0-2 teams we're looking at right now are the Miami Dolphins, the Cincinnati Bengals, the Jets, Texans, Broncos, Eagles, Giants, Vikings, Lions, Falcons, Panthers. So out of all those teams, we're just going to do 2 things here. Pick one team that we think is most likely to make the playoffs, and one team we're guaranteeing is going to miss the playoffs after their 0-2 start. Now, I think there's multiple teams here that you could probably guarantee or will not be making the playoffs. But to start, I think the team you should not write off right now, and it's very controversial maybe because of just the culture surrounding their collapses over the last couple of years, but the Atlanta Falcons. Now, the Falcons over the last 2 weeks, Ryan has thrown for over 400 yards. That offense is ticking. It's just culturally, Dan Quinn can't seem to shake now the 28-3 and now the 20-0 lead. And I believe they even had like a 29-7 lead or something like that. But I think Ryan could potentially will this team to like a 9-win record that could squeeze them in that 7th seed. It's going to be tough, but I believe this team has the most talent to be able to pull something like that off. My issue with the Eagles and why I didn't pick them is just because the injuries are too much to overcome. And it's not even just the injuries anymore. They just seem very off. Carson Wentz isn't looking great. I watched some of that game with Tristan and there was a lot of swearing, which we don't condone in this house. And, it was just, they couldn't get that run game going. I mean, I think they took a flyer on Freeman, who ended up signing with the Giants now because they're questioning Miles Sanders' durability. So I couldn't go with them. Now, the one team I'm guaranteeing is not going to make the playoffs. And this sucks because it makes me look like an absolute loser when it comes to predicting things, is the Minnesota Vikings. Now, this team just has looked absolutely lost in their last 2 weeks. That defense, who I thought maybe these new young guys that fresh blood that they injected into that defense and trading for Yannick Ngakoue would have injected some life into this team. And I was comfortable picking them at 10-6 to win the division, but they have looked just absolutely lost. Kirk looks like the Kirk that we all come to know, like we talked about a couple of weeks ago, where he looks conservative, he looks scared, and he's not taking command of that team. So I think you could stick a fork in the Minnesota Vikings and you can put some money on the Falcons probably having the best shot to make the playoffs out of all these teams. Let's go to Zach next on your one team that you think has the best chance of making the playoffs, who started 0-2, and the one team you're sticking a fork in this early.
So you shat on me because I was going with the Eagles here as my potential playoff one, only for a few reasons. The injuries hurt, I agree, but like I said, like it's been for the past 2 years, it's something that they've overcome deep down the stretch. And this is also kind of hypocritical because I'm saying from prior episodes where I'm like, it just feels like too much to overcome at this point, but they've shown they've done it in the past. So being 0-2, with the culture of winning a Super Bowl a few years ago, I just feel like this team knows how to get it done down the stretch. So that's a potential win in the weakest division out of all these teams. That's how I feel about that. I love the Atlanta Falcons, by the way, Steve. That was great. And I'm going to stick a fork in the Detroit Lions. I don't even think Matt Patricia makes it halfway through the season. It's not looking good there. They can, you could stick a fork in a lot of these teams. I know this is not a pretty easy one, but it's not looking good, and it's his 3rd season. And I was actually kind of hoping for Matt Patricia there with getting things going on the defensive side of the ball, but there's getting too much talent there for them to be 0-2 this early and not competitive. It's time for them to change it up, and it just seems like they're not rallying, and I just feel no hope from them there.
I wish, I feel so bad for Stafford, but at the same time, these quarterbacks just lock themselves into these teams. And even now you can look at Watson with the Texans. It's just like, I wish these quarterbacks would assert themselves as like the superstars they are, like they do in the NBA, and say, you know what, I'm taking my talents to Buffalo because they built a good squad and they have cap room, and I'm going to go sign for 5 years and 150 million there. Like, I wish these guys would kind of flaunt that around, but Stafford will always be remembered as like, oh, poor Stafford. Detroit never made it work for him. But it's like, at the same time, it's like, bro, get out of there. Like, when have a year coming up, I know, and maybe the lack of freedom now I'm thinking about is the franchise tag ordeal. And you saw that with Kirk Cousins. So you end up with a team 2 more years than what you want to be, unless you demand a trade. But I digress. I just feel bad for these guys. I like Stafford probably be an all-time great if he were to be on any other team, but he's on the Detroit Lions. I digress. Ozzy, your two picks.
The Detroit Lions are the factory of sadness in the NFC. So the team that I have with the best chance of making the playoffs at 0-2 is going to be the Houston Texans. I think that Zach, in his brief analysis during the 2-minute warning, had mentioned that Deshaun Watson was trying to get on the same page with his receivers. And I think that coupled with the offensive coordinator, I think they had a shift there. I think they just need to get on the same page and start to get this train rolling, because what we've seen over the past 2 weeks, we've seen the Texans go up against the top two teams in the AFC, which is not a fair measurement, especially when just talking about making the playoffs. You're going to be playing lesser competition most of the year. So that's promising for Texans fans. And then on top of it, I think that we've seen enough of Deshaun Watson to know that he can carry this offense, even if it can um, keeps at this like mediocre pace. It's going to get more efficient, and it might not get very explosive or anything like that, or might not be a top 5 offense, but it's going to be Deshaun Watson pulling some magic and making things happen. The 7 playoff teams this year, I think, obviously helps any of these teams, but the Texans are just too good, I think, to miss the playoffs. And then I'll keep it short for the team I'm sticking a fork in, and that is going to be the Denver Broncos. I hate to do it. I hate to do it this soon, Tomac, but signing Blake Bortles is not a good sign. With Drew Lock, I really don't like that, and I hope Lock comes back before it's too late. But I'm not going to go with the New York Jets, because I think that we could all just choose the low-hanging fruit.
Yeah.
But the Denver Broncos are one where it's like, oh, that Lock injury, Cortland Sutton's gone, Philip Lindsay's out for another few weeks. It's just those are the same thing with the Eagles. The injuries are piling up, and Blake Bortles is not good enough to carry a injury-plagued team to the playoffs. So I'm sorry, buddy. Buddy being Tomac, and yeah, we'll move on to next season for you.
That's so disappointing, man. So my arc on the Broncos started here. I was like, oh, 10-6 and maybe Super Bowl sleeper. And I came back down to earth on our preview show. I said 8-8, and I think that's what I officially released. And now it's just
Super Bowl sleeper.
Remember,
I was
man?
so
Remember
on board with that.
God,
I was so on board with that. Then Locke had to go and get injured. Sutton had to go tear his ACL.
We got to go delete that from the archives. And Fangio had to go not know how to manage the clock. So
yeah, he had to freaking save his timeouts for after the game.
I had Sutton in both my leagues.
Oh,
no way.
Poor guy. Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, on the contrary, we have 2-0 teams here, which, we've seen teams even go 3-0. I think the Broncos was it last year or the year before, we're speaking of the Devils, started 3-0 and then went finished 8-8. So 2-0 isn't exactly but everyone likes to say here are the undefeated teams left. So for the sake of that, we're going to go with it. Which 2-0 team is a fraud in your mind? That's 2-0, but you think probably is going to miss out on the playoffs. We have the Titans, Chiefs, Bears, Seahawks, Steelers, Packers, Rams, Cardinals, Bills, Raiders, Ravens. My fraud is, and I mentioned this on Twitter, is the Green Bay Packers. We just spoke about how the Vikings and the Lions are in absolute shambles right now, and Rodgers is getting MVP consideration. He's getting in the conversation with Russ, which I do not like. And these Packers have beat up on some pretty poor defenses right now. And, they look impressive, which is good. They should be beating up on these teams. But I still see this team as a 9-7, 10-win max team. And because I have the Vikings missing the playoffs, they probably will make the playoffs, but they're going to be that division winner that no one really pays much mind to. And I think we'll probably lose in the wild card round.
Eagles of 2019.
The Eagles of 2019. So the Packers are my frauds. I think they're beating up on some pretty poor competition. I'd like to see them play a San Francisco. I'm not sure what their schedule is, honestly. I don't know if the Seahawks will see them, but I'd like to see them play some legitimate competition. I will not crown this team. So, Zach, you had a pretty strong reaction. Who's your 2-0 fraud?
Well, now it's the Seattle Seahawks. No, no. Mine's actually the Cardinals. I know you're very,
wow.
Yeah. I think everyone's very high on them, and I am too. I really like what they're doing. It looks really sexy. However, they're young. Kyler Murray's inexperienced, and the attack once they get into the playoffs, if they make the playoffs, I just don't think it's going to work out for them to make a run this year. So, yeah, I wanted to shock the world with that one, and it definitely got what I was looking for, because I do believe they are a fraud.
Wow. So
Man,
Ozzy,
that team's too good.
the Packers are off the board and the Cardinals are off the board. Not that you couldn't pick those teams, but who's your fraud?
I'm going to emphatically pound the table that the Bears are the fraud.
You're 12-4 Bears, Ozzy? The frauds?
They were
What?
going to be 12-4 if they started Nick Foles, but the Mitchell Trubisky-led Bears are absolute frauds right now. Trubisky's true colors have not had to come to light against the bottom-feeding Detroit Lions and New York Giants. I do not trust either of those teams, and no, I will not trust the Bears, even though they're taking care of business against dead fish. I will not consider this team a playoff contender until further notice. Mitchell Trubisky needs to prove to me that he can beat teams that are above 500, and time will tell how that plays out. But I think he's got a few open receivers that he's got to miss yet, and we'll see Nick Foles in the Bears as the Bears starting quarterback soon enough. But this team is just, I'm not I said it ever since they named Trubisky the starter. I'm just so low on this team. They could go 4-12 for all I know. And who knows? That's still a possibility because I don't trust this team at all.
Consider this podcast anti-NFC North. We have anti-maskers in this era, and now we are anti-NFC North. I stuck a fork in the Minnesota Vikings. I believe Zach stuck his in the Detroit Lions.
No, the Arizona Cardinals.
Oh, the Cardinals. So who's
I
saying they're frauds.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Yeah. And then I think the Packers are frauds, and you think the Bears are frauds. So whoever's winning that division, like, we're just not going to be too high on come playoff time. That's for certain. The Josh Allen's looked great with the Bills. I couldn't pick them. The Raiders looked great last night against the Saints. I couldn't pick them. The Titans, Tannehill's throwing 4 touchdowns despite being in a run-heavy set. The Steelers look pretty great. They're kind of next high on my list. I worry about Ben's durability, but they seem to be playing pretty good. So, and the Rams scare the hell out of me. So that's the rest of those teams. The Chiefs and Ravens and Seahawks, it's hard to even really mention them. I think they're going to be playoff juggernauts. So guys, let's talk week 3 games to watch, and we're going to offer some predictions for some fun there. Zach, you went 14-2 last week with your picks, while Ozzy and I went 13-3 apiece. So great job by us on those predictions.
What did Zach go?
14-2.
Oh shit, nice, Zach.
Yeah. So well done.
You guys did good 13-3.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
We did as a whole. We did good.
So
and that freaking Falcons team.
Oh, yeah. Oh, you would have had a really
dinguses.
Stay tuned for our whole pick 'em. We're going to release those Sunday morning. But here are the biggest games we're going to be keeping our eye on for this week. We'll give our predictions on the pod here. So first one, the 2-0 Rams at the 2-0 Bills. And we just talked about which teams are fraud or which teams are for real. Both these teams, in my mind, are for real. And now you have this Bills defense going against this Rams offense that looked great against the Eagles. Goff didn't miss a pass until his, I believe, 13th or 14th attempt in the game. You have Van Jefferson really making great waves as a receiver there alongside Robert Woods and in Los Angeles there. And then on the Bills side, you have Josh Allen playing some really great football. Not just with his legs, but really throwing the ball. I think he's leading the league in passing yards. And
70% completion.
70% completion. And that defense has been playing great. I'm trying to think. The Dolphins, they played. And then week 1, I forgot who they played now. Ugh.
Who? Sorry.
The Bills.
Week 1?
Yeah.
Here, let me check.
Anyways, they look great against the Dolphins. And I guess it's Fitzpatrick, but
the Jets.
The Jets. Okay, so
oh boy,
Jets.
But, this will be their biggest. This will be their biggest test then. And if Allen can come in and carve up that Rams defense against Ramsey and Aaron Donald, then that's a great win for them, and that's keeping pace with the Pats or staying ahead of the Pats is going to be big for them. Unfortunately, I think the Rams look really good. And I'm going to take them by 4 points. It's going to be like a 24-20 victory. And unfortunately, the NFC West, will not get any easier for my Seattle Seahawks. Zach, who are you going with between the Rams and the Bills?
Man, before I even get into my predictions here, these were some hard games to call, man.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
struggling with these. Now, before I did this, I had the Bills over the Rams 24-20, so opposite of yours there, Steve.
Mm.
Um, but now I'm second guessing it after looking at the schedule that we just saw that the Bills were
Yeah.
playing. They played some pretty abysmal offenses, then making them the third best rush defense in the league. Rightfully so, playing those two teams, Miami has no rush, and the Jets, I think I said, they also have no rushing as well. I think I'm actually flipping and being a coward. I
Oh.
am. I think the Rams are going to go in there and do their ramming. The Buffalo Bills. I think they have enough talent on the defensive end, like top talent. I think Darnold's really going to put some pressure on Allen and make him avert back to his legs running, and probably some more inconsistency through throwing the ball. However, I think the Rams offense is back hitting on all cylinders, and that's scary because it doesn't matter who they're playing, they're going to be effective. And it's not like it's going to be like snowy, cold weather there yet in
Mhm.
Buffalo. I think they're going to be able to get that moving. And Van Jefferson, who's also on one of my fantasy teams, is starting to come into his own there, which is just another threat. On that, they do so much. So much of their packages are within the receivers are so close to the offensive line, and they do so much crossing routes. It opens up so much opportunity for Jared Goff. And I just think it's going to be a win now for the Rams, looking at it that way. So I don't want to be a coward, but I'm being a coward, and I'm going to go 27, 21 Rams.
Ozzy, your predictions for this one.
Yeah, this one definitely wasn't easy to predict. But one thing I do really like as far as this matchup goes is the coaching. Sean McVay versus Sean McDermott. Um, that's it, just the two Seans. I'm just kidding. No, but you got a really an offensive guru in McVay, and then a really strong defensive coach in McDermott. And I really love the Bills' defense. This Bills team, I think we forget how good their defense is. Yes, they were playing the Jets and the Dolphins, but we've seen them through over the years that we know what they are and what they can be. And so for that reason, I think that I got to put my faith in this Bills defense to shut down Goff and company. Zach, you had mentioned Donald forcing Allen to use his legs a lot more, and that's a strength of Allen. So I really like that, even though the offensive line is going to have their work cut out for them as any team that plays the Rams. I think that that's a strength that the Bills can really harness this game is Josh Allen's running ability. And that for that reason alone, I think that the Bills are going to eke this one out. I think it's going to be like within 3 points. So like 23-20. That's going to be, that's kind of like a weird score. I'll go 24-21 for this one, and the Bills are going to take it at home.
Okay, so we got Zach and I rolling with the West Coast, and the Aussie rolling with the Bills as division.
My chair started falling apart mid-take.
Yeah, that's always the worst.
That's really good.
Next big game, guys. Cowboys 1-1 at the 2-0 Seahawks. The Cowboys riding high off of their big comeback victory, which I almost prefer as opposed to them coming in as a desperate 0-2 team. The Seahawks have had their success against Mike McCarthy before. Obviously, the biggest one being that 2014 NFC Championship where McCarthy was ultra conservative, kicking multiple field goals from like the 1 or 2 yard line instead of going for touchdowns with Aaron Rodgers as a quarterback. I don't know how much he's changed. I mean, just based on watching some of these Dallas games, it seems like he claimed to be very pro analytics, but with the way he's calling these games, it seems like that hasn't been the case. I'm confident Russell can have his way with this defense, but I am not looking forward to what Dak will do to our defense. I think we're going to see another high-scoring game. I think, it's going to be similar to Cam Newton and what he did to our secondary. Our pass rush is going to have to figure it out all over again now with no Bruce Irvin. Hopefully Diggs can play the full game now at free safety and have Jamal at strong safety. I'm confident in Ugo Amadi to come in and play nickel corner. I think he filled in really well for Marquise Blair when he went down with his torn ACL. Mari Cooper doesn't scare me so much as opposed to the rest of the weapons on that team. I'm confident in our run defense to take out Zeke, but I still think Dak's going to find a way to hit his secondary receivers and put points on the board. However, that all being said, I'm going to take the Seahawks to win this one 34-27. They'll take it by a touchdown, but it's going to be another high-scoring, nail-biting game where I think the Seahawks could take as much as a 10 or 14-point lead before Dallas claws back in it, kind of like the way New England did it. But I think it just comes down to Russ is going to probably outperform Dak despite Seattle's deficiencies in pass rush. So I'll take the Seahawks by 7. Ozzy, we'll go right back to you. You just had a full game of watching the Seahawks play. The Cowboys, they're riding high off that comeback. What do you see going on here?
Yeah, I actually think that what the Seahawks have, it's going to be a nightmare for the Cowboys. Just with the balanced attack that the Seahawks have, run, pass, it doesn't matter. And the deficiencies that the Cowboys have just with their injuries that they've accumulated. I think that this is going to be a game where I don't one second here.
Well, because they lost their linebacker, Van Esch, right? I think I'm saying that right. Van Esch, yeah. I think Ozzy got a bloody nose there, or what's going on?
Yeah, I thought I did for a sec. It's just COVID. It's okay. But no, yeah. So this is a game where I think that the Seahawks are going to be able to carve up that Cowboys defense, and I could see it getting ugly really quickly, and I could see it being like a 35-20 game, but it's not close. It's like some garbage time points. So 35-20 is going to be
your prediction for that one. Zach, what say you?
Ooh, them boys! No,
oh God!
I actually do have the Cowboys coming in and beating the Seahawks.
Oh no!
Yes,
exactly.
I do, man, and it's insane, isn't it? I'm
Yeah,
not a
I hate
Cowboys fan. It's weird.
No,
I love the
God.
Seahawks. So, no, I think Dak is going to come in and dice you guys up. I hate to say it. And they're also going to run the ball effectively with Zeke. I think the balance on offense is actually going to finally come together this game. Unfortunately for your Seahawks, I have no trust in your defense right now, unless they prove different in this game. I think they'll be able to, pressure Russ a bit on offense to slow them down at the start of the game and maybe potentially move ahead prior with some balance on offense. And it'll be the first loss. I always feel like Seattle has to have a few losses early in the year. It's just who they are. And this feels like one of those losses because of all the power on offense that Dallas brings to the table. It's crazy to think, even with all the injuries to Dallas, the talent there still outweighs, like, it feels like the talent on the Seattle defense right now, man, with the injuries there and no pass rush. Like, it's scary. It's scary what Dak could do, because I'm not a huge boys fan there. So I do have them losing 33-29. I think Russ makes some late game heroics to keep it close, but this will be a big W for the Cowboys.
Oh, wow.
Damn it.
I'm sorry.
Damn it. No,
Yeah,
it's
I
okay.
know.
So next game here, guys. I'm just going to be pissed at Zach for the rest of the episode now. We got the 2-0 Packers going to the 1-1 Saints. Rodgers versus Breeze, perhaps for the final time. And I went back and looked. These two actually haven't played against each other since 2014, because in their 2017 matchup, Brett Hundley got the start. I believe Rodgers was hurt. So these guys haven't played each other since 2014. And prior to that, they only played in 2012 and 2011. So they've only met. This will be their fourth meeting as with these two quarterbacks starting, and potentially final meeting, just depending on what Brees decides to do after the season. I called the Packers frauds, but then the Saints come in, having just lost to the Las Vegas Raiders in a game where I only got to watch the first half, but they just didn't seem like that, firepower offense that we're used to seeing. I don't know if Brees has kind of lost a little bit. He still seems accurate with the ball. I'm just this one's kind of like a flip of the coin for me, because this, again, despite the Saints' deficiencies, this will probably be the Packers' toughest test up to this point, because, I mean, their first two opponents have been utterly despicable. And so I don't know how pretty this one's going to be. I mean, marquee, it's Breeze versus Rodgers, but they're kind of in the twilight of their careers. Rodgers, mind you, is still playing very good football. I think the Saints take this one. It's going to be like a 24-17 victory just by a touchdown. It's not going to be any blowout. I don't think it's going to be as pretty as a game as many want to see. I think there's going to be a lot of mistakes, but I think the Saints take this one. Zach, we'll go to you just because you were upset with my Packers pick earlier. So
Yeah, so on this one, I see the Packers as honestly a better Vegas Raiders team here. And right now, without Thomas in the lineup for the Saints, they honestly see them like a shell of themselves. I love Drew Brees. He's one of my favorite players of all time. And I got to say, a lot of the passes he was throwing last week or Monday night against the Raiders, it was pretty sad. That one interception over the middle early on in the game, it was just clear.
yeah,
It was just clear that he didn't have the arm strength to put it to the middle of the field where he wanted it, which was really crappy to see as a Breeze fan. But without Thomas running his routes, the 10-yard routes, and then getting the yards after, they look like a shell of themselves. The run game, Kamara looked good. But I just feel like Aaron Rodgers is playing to prove something right now. He's showing love in the back. Please sit down. You're playing with one of the GOATs, so stay on the bench. He's playing for something, and when you have Aaron Rodgers playing for something like this, they're gonna be effective. And I think you're right, Steve. It's a big test for them, but I think it's a test they're gonna pass at this moment on a beat up Saints team, and I think it's going to be 26-23. Also, Aaron Jones, man, that guy is turning into a really good running back right now, and they beefed up that line, and they're looking to keep the ball rolling that way. And Aaron's been throwing off that momentum so well. I think Packers continue their 3-0 to 3.
This is gonna be. I'm flipping. I'm going Packers. You talked me into it. I totally forgot Michael Thomas was out another week. And everything you just said about that, I'm gonna go Packers by a touchdown now. Actually, I just don't know what I was thinking. I was just thinking of the Saints, but like that Vegas loss really bothered me, and I was thinking maybe the Packers. I still think they're frauds, but maybe the Saints might be even worse. So I'm flipping. Zach talked me into it.
Same with the Rams. So
yeah, talked me into it. Ozzy, your thoughts on the Packers and Saints?
I'm on this show with a bunch of cowards. That's
my
first thoughts. But I guess I'm going to keep this boring since Steve picked the Packers as well. The Saints just look deflated, about as the Pats fan using the word deflated. That doesn't sit right with me.
Take a drink.
They just don't spark any confidence in me. And I just I watched them last night against the Raiders, and it was pretty bland to watch. It's like, yeah, they're a team. They're out there. They're throwing it.
They're playing football, yeah.
Yeah. But against the Packers, who have just bodied the cheeks of the teams that they've played, I think that even though it was the Vikings who are kind of down and out right now, and the Lions who we know what they are, I think the Packers are still a good enough team to take care of business against a team like the Saints. They've got such a well-balanced attack as of right now from what we've seen, that the Saints, I just don't think they have that balance, and that's going to be easy to shut down Kamara. Well, it's never easy, but you know what I mean. And so with that being said, I've got the Packers taking this, and it's going to be like 27-20.
The Saints, I mentioned in one of our prediction episodes back in June that like these playoff losses would eventually start taking a toll on them. And I feel like, yeah, like you said, they just look empty and deflated out there. They just don't look like they have like that. They look like they've been let down one too many times, and they just don't have that spark to push. And now you have a lot of great teams in the NFC that are going to be chomping at the bit to take their place.
Man,
all right.
I picked the Saints to go to the Super Bowl and win it, so I'm hurting big time right now. So
they fall to 1-2. Yeah. Could be trouble. And in the last game, guys, Monday Night Football, Chiefs at Ravens. I just quickly checked the score. The Ravens are favored by 3 points, which I read on Twitter a couple days ago, coincidentally, that Vegas will typically give the home team a 3-point lead to start anyways if the teams are pretty even, just because it's home field advantage, which doesn't really exist anymore. But nevertheless, this one's a really hard game to predict. Like, can I predict a tie? Is that allowed? I really don't know which direction to go with this. I mean, the Chiefs looked susceptible to some damage last week against the Chargers, who had a really close game against the Bengals. So could that just been an off game for the Chiefs? Maybe they were looking ahead to the Ravens. The Ravens have looked simply dominant in their first 2 games. Lamar Jackson's playing at a really great level. I'm going to go with the Ravens on this one. And it's really tough because this one, like I said, you could flip a coin, but I think we're going to see some fireworks in this one. I'm going to say the Ravens 35 and the Chiefs 31. We'll go to Aussie. It's your AFC foes here that your Patriots might have to be fighting with a spot for. What do you see this one doing here?
Yeah, I think that the balance top to bottom of the Ravens is going to be a challenge for the Chiefs. And the Chiefs have a problem of getting down early in games and having to claw their way back into it. If they do that against the Ravens, I don't think that they will be able to this time around, because it's just that team is so good with Lamar playing the way that he is now. Like, accuracy is no longer an excuse. He is a good passer. He is fantastic running the football. You've got that the running attack with Mark Ingram and J.K. Dobbins. That is a power punch right there. And so I really do like the Ravens in this matchup, just because I think they have the depth to continuously pound the football if they need to, slow down or speed up the game rather, and just take time off the clock and keep the ball away from the Chiefs. And that's exactly what you have to do with this team, especially if you're going to try to avoid them coming back on you. So I think that the Ravens are just the better team on paper, probably, as weird as that might be to say about the defending Super Bowl champs. And I think that the Ravens are going to take this one. But yeah, I think it's going to be probably 38-35.
Ooh.
It's like still close, but just I don't think that the Chiefs can pull this one out this time.
Zach, your thoughts?
Well, and don't forget, guys, I think the Ravens are going to come in here with a little bit of revenge on their shoulders. They'll be wanting to revenge their 33-28 loss last season in Kansas City to them. I'm going Ravens here too. I'm not making it very fun for you guys. But here's my reason. I have the same reasons you guys. Chiefs are more of a one-trick pony. They rely on Patrick Mahomes here. I think the reason the run game's so good there with rookie Hilaire is because of the ability in Patrick Mahomes allows to open up the field for him. A lot what we saw with like Peyton Manning. But here's some interesting stats for you guys. Ravens have been balanced, and their defense has the second best in yards allowed, third down percentage. They're third in third down percentage. Oh, no, sorry, second as well. Fourth in passing yards, and that's only 189 yards. And plus they're first in points, which I think it averages out to 11 points. I just think with the balance of defense and the offense, run and pass game, it's too much. If there's one guy who can overcome it, it is Patrick Mahomes. But I just think with revenge on their mind, the Ravens unfortunately are going to come in and beat the Chiefs at home, 31-24.
All right, so we all got flocking with the Ravens on that one. Zach, don't worry about making it fun. You made it fun enough with your Seattle pick going against them. So that was great of you to do that. Before we wrap things up, guys, we just want to quickly mention our sponsor, Oak Apparel, has changed their name to Devin and Lang, but you can still find their merchandise at oakapparel.com. I believe they're making the turn soon, the change to their website name soon. But another big news, though, we'll keep you updated on that. Our discount code THIRD15, THIRD15, is now, you're able to use that across all merchandise. Before it was just the underwear. They do great face masks. I believe they even have like sanitizer they're selling as well. The face masks, I own one. It's great. It's right, fits right to your face. It's nice and tight. It doesn't stick out or anything. And it's fashionable too. Like I look badass in it, and there's very few things I can wear that I actually look badass in. So, I mean, that's saying a lot. So go look at my Instagram, Steve Bullen _ and you'll see I'm not exactly a badass looking person, but when I put the mask on, suddenly people care who I am. Little Bane reference. Anyways, check that out. We're really proud to be sponsored by a local Calgary company, and they released these masks at a time when a lot of people needed them. They've been on this since like March or April, and I mean their underwear, the quality speaks for itself. It's great stuff. So we wouldn't have brought them on we wouldn't talk about them if we didn't believe in their product. So little something for that there. Just be aware of their name change. Devin and Lang. It's what they're turning to. Ozzy, where can everyone find you on social media, man? Where can everyone find those hot takes?
You can find these hot takes and this hot ass in my Devin and Lang underwear. Just kidding. That was kind of
You should have finished that. Yeah. Flaunt your stuff, bro.
I guess I should have. At Austyn Paul _ Austyn with a Y, not an I. We'll see you there. See you in the DMs. Let's go.
See you in the DMs. All right.
Well,
make
with
sure
the
Shane
takes,
doesn't listen.
you know,
Yeah,
with
with the takes. Not with
I
any
thought that
other
was evident. This
propositions.
is a football podcast. I mean,
Well, yeah, you've gotten stranger DMs from me. Okay, Zach, where can everyone find you?
Yeah, so I'm going to jump on with you guys here and say they can find me dropping my weapon in my Devin and Lang boxers. My weapon is my butt, not the other thing.
Thanks for clarifying.
Yes. So
not the other thing. You can't even say it or what?
This is a PG-13 podcast.
Right. Yeah. Not
we
my
can
pecker.
have some anatomy on the
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah, there we go. Not my Peter Becker.
Hey,
no.
Peter. This is really...
All right. They can find me on Twitter at Zach Foth, and you can find me on Instagram at Zach Foth _ dropping my weapon.
Hey, Peter, I saw you dropping your weapon there. You can find me on Twitter at Steve Bullen 22 and Steve Bullen _ I will not be dropping any weapons of any kind, just takes. And be sure to follow our amateur agency pages. That's where we'll have our predictions posted Sunday morning, our full comprehensive picks. And thanks everyone for tuning in. We'll see you next week for episode 81. Good night and Godspeed.